So welcome everybody to Self-Worth Talks, and this is our second episode, and today we're going to be talking about divorce and how that impacts self-worth and how self-worth impacts decisions to get divorced, the whole spectrum. And that's why I have you on here today, Shell. This is Shell Sawyer. It's nice to meet you.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Well, I'm not just meeting you, but
I know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody else here is.
Everybody else might be, yes.
Yeah.
So nice meeting everyone.
So I have you on here today because you are a certified divorce financial analyst, mediator also, and overall, in general, help people make really good decisions when it comes to this very stressful time in their lives.
It sure is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we get started with you telling us more about that, I just love to know what brought you to be doing this. Like, what is your story? What's the story behind what you're doing and how you got here today? If you don't mind.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for, of course. No, thank you for asking me that. Well, I went through my own divorce, and I found it to be a very overwhelming and stressful. And I have to say, I have a background in finance, and it was, a time for me when I was my head was in a fog. I didn't know how to make a good decision. I wish there was somebody that could help me with that. And even though I have a background in finance, I mean, I was pretty depressed going through my divorce, and some days I could barely get out of bed. So it was hard, especially those days where I did mediation and I had to go and meet my ex-husband and my mediator and go through all these decisions. And it was a very hard time. So after I was done with all of that and I had gotten through the divorce, I was like, what would I have done better? That was after I was clear. Like, what would I have done better? And I found a certified divorce coaching class, and it was exactly like what I needed. I wish I had when I was going through my own divorce. And then I found out about the CDFA program, the Certified Divorce Financial Analyst, and I was like, this is how I can help people. I can help others like myself going through divorce and help them make the good decisions, and understand what some of the implications are to some of the decisions they're making.
That's such a great story. And one of the things that you said was how you felt like, even though you knew a lot about this stuff, you just weren't thinking clearly, and being depressed and going through something that is so stressful like that, you just don't think as clearly.
No.
And like happens.
Even though I have a background in finance, I didn't have it. Like, divorce is very specific, right? There's so many nuances about divorce that people don't learn in the regular finance curriculum, right?
Specialty.
So it's a very it's a specialty. And so finding the CDFA program, like, I would highly recommend hiring a CDFA, whether it's me or someone else, for your divorce, so they can help you, because you don't know what you don't know, unfortunately. Yeah.
Well, full disclosure, I'm divorced also. So I've been through a divorce. And I really wish I had you when I was going through a divorce, because I had a very similar,
a lot.
I had very similar experiences, but I was wondering what you think about, like, the idea of self-worth. Do you feel like you were going through your own process and you started to really value yourself more and value what you needed and then decided to get divorced, or was it the other way around?
Yeah, I mean, my divorce was kind of put on me. It wasn't a decision I made myself. So I think it helped. It made me feel worse about myself, right? I don't think I had great self-esteem going into it. And then adding this on top of it, because I think a lot of people feel like that they're a failure when they go through divorce. But now I look at it and I see people going through it, and especially if they're making a decision to get out of a situation that's not healthy, it's a success. It
It's a
really is. You're
success.
putting yourself first, you
Mhm.
really are like, and I wish I had looked at it that way. Like I felt like I was a failure and no, like I got myself out of a bad situation, right? That was not healthy for me.
Mhm.
Um,
It's
so,
one of those societal things that we're taught. It's like a
mhm,
limiting beliefs, right? That
right,
if we get divorced, we're a failure. Like if a relationship doesn't work and last, we're a failure. Or all sorts of like when people don't want to get divorced, but then they get divorced because the other person either wants to or does something that they feel they have no leaves them with no
right,
choice.
no control. Right, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
that they end up feeling bad about themselves. And I think having support to really kind of go through that and to know that it's not a failure.
No.
And
Um, and
yeah.
your best defense really is knowledge too, right? So like having support, like you mentioned that, like having support by your side, that's just better for you. That's better for you. That's better for your kids. And helps you through a situation, right? When
Mhm.
you need that.
Mhm. Yeah,
Hmm.
especially when you get divorced. I think that's one of those times in life when you really need a lot of support, whether it's friends or people like you who know how to help make decisions. Um, what do you see as in your work? What are some of
Hmm.
the common themes with people in terms of do you help them decide or have they already decided or and then once you're in
When
it?
So I try to help one of my services that I offer, and I would say one of my most popular services is helping women who have never dealt with their finances go through their divorce. I hold their hand the whole way.
Yeah.
Um, and what I see a lot with women, I mentioned that they haven't dealt with their finances, but usually what that can mean is that they're either emotionally or financially like controlled or abused, could be even abuse. And the emotional financial are they go hand in hand with that. And I see that a lot. So it's a lot of you may feel criticized by your spouse that you can't handle your finances, you're put down, or that you need them to be able to move forward, right? So a lot of people won't, they have a fear of getting divorced, right? Because
Mhm.
it's almost a little bit, I hate to use this word, but it's coming to my mind like a little brainwashing of, without me, you're not going to be able to go forward.
That's kind of
Um,
that I think we call that gaslighting in the
Gaslighting,
mental
exactly.
health field.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And my field too, and divorce field too,
Yeah.
gaslighting. But you have to remember that those are their thoughts, not yours. And you can do things, right? And it's getting to like notice those things that you can do. Like notice that maybe you're good at something that they're not. Maybe you're good at saving, you know,
Mhm.
and maybe they're not. Maybe they're a spendthrift, right? Or maybe you're good at paying bills on time. You've got a good credit rating. They might not, right? Like
Yeah.
just little things that could tell you and are good, like you can do this. You can do this on your own too.
Wow. So you
You
really
can move
help
forward.
people understand what it takes and
Mhm.
that they do have a lot of those skills already or
You do.
yeah,
Yeah.
that they don't realize.
Hmm. And if there's some skills that maybe you can see as like a gap, you can get the support needed to get you through that, right?
Mhm.
There's people
Mhm.
out there that can help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you find there's any relationship between uh somebody who keeps track of their finances and knows what they all are versus somebody who doesn't have a clue about any of it and lets their spouse take care of it in terms of how they feel their sense of empowerment in life or their
Yeah.
yeah.
And or empowerment just in their relationship or marriage, right? Because and it's no fault of anybody's who it's usually a role that someone plays in a marriage, right? Whether it's the husband or the wife. because we all have roles, right? We can't do everything, even though some of us try, especially as women, we try to do everything, right? But
Hmm.
we can't.
Yeah.
You might relinquish that responsibility to someone else. And if you're not keeping the communication open about spending, about, what your goals are, you can kind of fall behind on that, right? Because maybe it wasn't a priority while the kids were growing up. And
Hmm.
so it's really no fault of theirs, but I think people take it on as that it is,
Yeah.
like, I can't believe I let this happen. And now they feel they're fearful, right? Because they don't know what they owe and what they own. But that's what something that I help people with is just like helping them organize, helping them prepare, helping them understand what they owe and what they own. Giving them, I like to use that word empowerment. It's giving them that empowerment to be able to move forward and in a more peaceful manner, right? That when you're prepared, that fear tends to go away.
Hmm. Yeah.
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 So
It's
there is a big
interesting.
difference.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's not just like they're just getting divorced, but they really have to grow.
Mm-hmm.
They have to
Mm-hmm.
grow in embracing the different parts of themselves that people do. I don't mean
Yeah.
I mean, when we
Yeah.
get divorced, we
Mm-hmm.
have to
Yeah. When you're
grow.
going through, it's a change, right? Just like any other transition in your life. It's a difference and you have to grow.
Yeah.
And even I know people don't like this, but when you go through a traumatic event like that, it does make you stronger, whether you want to admit it or not. Those of us have gone through traumatic events, like you realize, you know what? It's just getting through it. You have to get through to the other side, and then you're like, I really can do this.
Yeah.
But getting there is hard.
Getting through a very difficult experience like that, it makes you realize you're stronger than you thought you
Yeah,
were.
right? I think we both can attest to that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And you mentioned also, shame that people have. They
Hmm.
don't know how to handle their finances, or they feel like a failure. I mean, do you think that's one of the things that stops people from moving forward often with getting divorced?
I think it's the one of the biggest things that prevents people from even acting on like talking to their spouse about getting a divorce because they're so fearful, right?
Hmm.
It really prevents them for taking that first step,
Yeah.
right? So it holds them
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people feel that, a lot of my clients will talk about feeling like they feel like they're being selfish if they
Mm.
make this decision.
Hmm.
It's sort of when you have to make the decision yourself,
Hmm.
you're thinking of yourself. And a lot of times people don't, they go through their whole life without putting themselves first and thinking of their needs.
Right. I mean, I think, you know, it's almost innate in us, right, as women, especially when you have a family, because, and I don't mean to just say women, because it happens to men too, right? But as
Yeah.
women, we tend to, constantly think about the family. What do I need to do for them? And if you're working and you're trying to get lunches ready and you're trying to get dinners ready and put people to bed and put them in the bath, and then here you are thinking about, separating the family, people can feel like, how can I do this to somebody else, right? But you really have to put yourself first because then you're not going to be able to care for everybody else,
Hmm.
and you might be displaying a relationship that's unhealthy. And you don't, if I have worked with a couple of clients where we looked at it like, would you want your children to be in a relationship like you are? Or would your mother or father agree to what's happening in your life, right?
Hmm.
And if you look at that and think of it from someone else's perspective, and take a step back. You would never. Some people, you wouldn't want your children to be in a relationship. You want them to be happy, right?
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
parents are going to want you to be happy, and your friends and your family. So, yeah.
I think about that. That's something I say to my clients when it comes to like just making changes and being more assertive or taking better care of themselves. Isn't that what you want for your kids?
Yeah.
I also think, like, when you said that, I think about, well, my parents were very Catholic, so they would have mixed feelings about, like, getting divorced, so.
Yeah, there are some religions where that's like not acceptable, right? And that can play a part in all of this too.
Yeah.
There is something called a legal separation, right? But the only thing that I caution people with is that, that really, in the eyes of the state, you're still married. So from a financial perspective, anything that happens, it's still considered marital property. So you got to be careful with debt. If somebody acquires any more debt, you're legally responsible for a portion of that as well, but true of assets, somebody acquires something that could be beneficial, but, yeah, there are some things that legal separation.
When would a legal separation be a good idea?
Well,
out of curiosity.
It would be a good idea if you think there might be a chance for reconciliation.
Okay.
Right? Because then you don't have to get remarried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
that's the thing. I mean, there are people that are not 100% sure.
Right. They're not 100% sure. Or if it's for religious reasons and they're trying to stay together, for the church or for what they believe,
Yeah.
might be something they think about.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard.
Like you almost have to be like a therapist.
Yes, a little bit. I feel like when a divorce coach, I would say the difference between a divorce coach and a therapist, because I think if you're going through a divorce, you definitely need to have therapy, right? Talk through just to make yourself better, right? And a proponent of that, 100%. I've had my own therapy journey my whole life. And when I went through my divorce, therapy was very helpful. But I'd say as a divorce coach, what they try to do and what I learned in my program was they help you focus forward. So helping you make decisions for your future, right? Making sure you are prepared to go to an attorney. What are those questions you need to ask? Even if you're doing mediation, getting prepared for that. What's a good parenting plan? Talking through that with your divorce coach. So it's really like specific to divorce and helping you along that path forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So a little different than therapy, but yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like it's very concrete and problem oriented.
Problem oriented.
Yeah.
Solution solving oriented. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the other thing that you really need when you're getting divorced.
Yeah. If you talk to attorneys, right, they feel like sometimes a lot of their consultations or even some of their meetings, they're spending a lot of time talking about the emotions of divorce, right? Mm-hmm. Where your attorney needs you to focus on the tasks that are on hand, right? Yeah. So if you can find somebody to help you with those emotions and just leave the tasks to the attorneys, you can be a better client for them, right? And spend less money. And who doesn't want that?
Yeah, right.
With the attorneys. Who doesn't want to spend less money with them? Yeah.
So what are some of the other, is there anything else that you notice with your clients that comes up that's a regular theme?
Yeah. So I'd say family and friends can give some really conflicting advice. If you know of anybody that's gone through a divorce before, they're going to tell you their story, right? But everyone has an opinion about what you should do, what you shouldn't do, and they really do mean well. But they're telling you their own specific story, and unfortunately, every divorce is different. So they don't know your circumstances, right? They don't see what does your financial portfolio look like. They don't know what your spouse was like to you at home, right? So it's really okay to ask for support and get some help because that's investing in yourself. And you need like a safe place that is non-judgmental to help you come up with that, like no judgment zones, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
To
hard.
get the best possible solution for yourself, right? That's how you're going to do it. And listening to other people, you might not get the whole picture, unfortunately.
These are some of the things that are so, I mean, difficult for everyone,
Everyone. Yeah.
like just that boundaries and like
Yeah.
confidence in themselves to just say, I'm doing this and thank you for giving me your advice, but I'm going to have to get it more specific from, the financial person who really understands my situation. And
Sure.
it's really hard to do that.
Yeah, it is. I love that you brought up boundaries because that is something that I've really had to learn. And because people are so reactive, right? The divorce really brings out the worst in everyone. It really does. And depending, like I almost look at it like a marriage, or actually getting divorced is almost you're grieving that marriage, right? You're grieving that loss of something that you really thought, maybe it was plans you made that you have to now like relinquish.
Yeah.
And that other person, right? Might be at a different stage than you are. Sometimes they're angry, they're in an angry stage. Sometimes they're depressed, where you could be at that acceptance phase, right? But I like that you mentioned boundaries because I've had to learn some of those, like maybe not answering a text when I'm upset, from my spouse, or taking a breath when I do get upset, about something that happened. Because the thing about, if you have children, the thing about getting divorced is you are connected to them for life, right? When you were younger and you had a relationship and, you broke up, sometimes you never had to talk to them again, right? They could just be written off. But a divorce with children involved, you're connected for life. And when they're younger, before they get into college, you're communicating with them regularly, right? So just putting those boundaries in place is really important after the divorce.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're communicating, it's often about finances, school or college.
Yeah. Because whether there's child support involved and somebody's writing a check or alimony, the finances are still deeply enrooted. I mean, actually, like most of what divorce is all about finances. It's all about the finances and emotions. The legal part is just a really small portion of it, right?
Yeah. It's a pretty heavy job that you have. Like,
it can be emotional. I have to say that I have to have my own boundaries. I'm an introvert too, so like I get my energy from being alone. So I really have to think about, myself and making sure that I'm good for my clients too. And in a good mindset.
Yeah, absolutely.
So employing some of the self-care techniques, right? Really important. And that's important when you're going through a divorce too. Self-care,
Absolutely.
You're good to be able to get through it.
Yeah.
We forget that, right? When things aren't going right.
Whenever things don't go well or you have a lot of stress in your life, I think often the first thing that goes, which shouldn't be, is self-care.
Self-care.
Taking care of yourself, like saying no to going out and doing things if you don't feel ready or up for it.
Or saying no to that bag of potato chips.
I was just gonna say, eating right. Yeah. And like, I think it's an ongoing struggle of having to communicate, like listen to your self-talk and tell yourself, this is the right thing. I'm doing the right thing. I'm a good person.
Yes.
Constant, like I think
constant
messages that you're trying to filter out. That
right.
You're not a good person for doing this, or you're going to ruin your kids' lives, or trying to like really protect yourself from all the messages from society.
The negative messages coming from society. Yes.
or from your friends or family even.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
From everywhere. And you feel it when you're going through divorce.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And people really do mean well, but they might say things that, as somebody that's divorcing, it's hard to hear. And it might add to the stress that you're feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. Do
Yeah.
you do anything like offer anything for people once they're divorced?
I actually have some good referrals. I know a wonderful divorced mom's coach,
Oh,
and she offers great programs. So I refer them. I usually stick within the divorce space because that's my specialty with the finance
yeah.
aspect of it. But I have worked with people, helping them create budgets, making sure they're set for their new lifestyle.
That's
And
great.
yeah, and if they've never handled their finances, helping them just understand how to pay bills, now it's online, right? How do you do that? Um, Investment 101, like if you come into money from your divorce, right, that you didn't ever have to manage, whether it's part of someone's 401k that now you need to think about what's the best way that I manage that money. I've helped people through that to give them some ideas, and then working with financial advisors to implement those.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that people don't know that you don't have to know it all. That
No,
it's
you
okay
don't.
to get help and to get support in different areas of your life.
Right. And think about this too. Most people only go through divorce once, right? Hopefully, right? Could be
Yeah.
twice, could be three times, but most people are only going through a divorce once. And so they don't know, if you've only done something once, are you an expert in that? No, right?
No.
So getting that support and that help from those professionals is really important in a time like that,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
think that goes for anything, right? If you've never done it before, you're not gonna try to do it on your own the first time. You're gonna get somebody to mentor you or teach you how to do that. And that's, what the financial professionals are doing and other professionals in the divorce arena.
Yeah. I feel like divorce is one of those things that it forces you, like I said this before, like in terms of growing, it forces you to kind of confront how you feel about yourself, and you confront your beliefs, like there's something wrong with me because I don't really know how to handle my finances. And you may not even really realize that you think that, but it's subconsciously it's there. And so
And it might come
comes
out
out.
while you're doing divorce.
It comes out. Everything comes out when you're
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
and then
You're
you
right.
clear everything. It's a great opportunity to clear it and create new beliefs, and you get more
Start fresh.
resilient. Start fresh. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Even if you never wanted to, sometimes it's a good idea, like hitting that reset button.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you have any kind of last tips for people, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think avoiding financial surprises, right, is my tip.
Yeah.
So before, during, and after. Because before you can make sure you're really aware of what's going on, like understanding what you owe and own before you even decide to go that divorce route. Like just helping, you could do things like looking at your tax return and understanding it, running your credit report. You can run that once a year and you can see, and so you won't have any surprises going forward, right? What is it that you owe? It's going to be laid out for you. And like a tax return doesn't necessarily show you what your balances are, right? But it will show you that you have an account somewhere, right? That is an investment account, because there might be like a 1099 from it, and you have to report that on your tax return. So that's just it's like a treasure trove, it's
That's
like,
interesting.
yeah, it has a lot of information on it that you can find.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you
Then
have any kind of thing, like it says anything like on your website where people could like look at all this kind of stuff?
Yeah, I have a checklist on my website. If you go there,
Oh, good.
it's Finding Strength with Shell. So it's www.findingstrength with Shell. and I have a checklist on there where people can download it, and it's like helping you get prepared. What are the kind of documents you're going to need for it? Pulling those all together, maybe putting them in a little folder so you have it all available to you if and when you go down this path.
How long before you say, let's say you're going to file for divorce, how long before would you recommend people do that? Or is there no?
I don't think there's no set. I mean, I think it's always good to know your finances. So even if you don't anticipate going down this path, just enacting some financial, even if it's talking to your spouse about it, like, hey, I want to know a little more about like our finances. Having a short conversation every once in a while about, what your spending habits are like, what your goals are. That helps with communication around finances anyways. And like finances can be one of the major reasons why people do get divorced, is that they're not on the same page.
Yeah.
So helping you guys get there, that is, really important. So always suggest being in line with that with your spouse.
So just really trying to be more educated about it and on the same page with your spouse all the time, whether you're wanting to get divorced or not. I think sounds like, and
if
having
you really want to get divorced, then this isn't really important, right? To know this before you even, the first thing you shouldn't be doing is hiring an attorney. The first thing you should be doing is gathering your finances and understanding them.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because the first thing your attorney is going to ask you for is your finances. So be prepared, right? Yeah, that would be the first step.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's so helpful. And it's just been nice to just talk about this. And hopefully, I think, people will get some insights and some support. And not feel that they're alone going through what they're going through.
No, you don't have to be alone. No, you have a lot of support. And I try to offer a space where you can feel comfortable and it's just the two of us and you can spend the time with me, and understanding and educating.
That's great. And do you work virtually with people or in person?
Whatever they're most comfortable with. So I will meet people in person. I'm in the Connecticut area, so anywhere in Connecticut, I will meet in person, but I do virtual as well. So.
And could you work with people from anywhere?
I can, yeah, I can work with people from anywhere. Yeah, in the United States.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have your contact info in the show notes, so people can find where to reach you. And this was really great, a great conversation. Thank you.
I appreciate it. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Bye, everybody. We'll see you next time.